Hello everyone, welcome to this tutorial for setting up your own Ubuntu server. Specifically, I'm gonna be going over how to make a web server to make your own website for free, running from your house, or if you want to run any other kind of server like a Minecraft server or a file server for local sharing at your house, this will also work. But today I'm going to be this is going to be the first part of a series of tutorials, and it's going to be about setting up a virtual machine for your Ubuntu server. So it's pretty easy to install Ubuntu server operating system on a computer on its own, but a lot of people have a Windows machine that they always want running, and they don't want a separate machine or that runs Linux or Ubuntu, or they don't want to replace their Windows installation with Ubuntu because they want to use Windows in the first place. So a virtual machine lets you run a second operating system kind of in the background of your Windows operating system. So you have two operating systems with the Ubuntu Server Edition running in the background and Windows still remaining your main operating system. So right now you can see my screen, and this is my Windows machine, but I still have my server running in the background. And this allows me to have websites like my PHP file sharing website. I'm running a Minecraft server in the background, a Mumble server, an FTP server, and it's all running through the virtual machine in the background. So today we're going to be going over that, and then in the future tutorials I'm going to be going over how to actually set up your own web server, what that means, what's the difference between HTML and PHP, how to program in PHP, and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to start off by downloading Oracle VirtualBox, which is the software that you need to use for running a virtual machine. Now, there are limitations for what kind of processors are supported, which CPU you need to have in your computer, and it also helps to have a lot of RAM, because if you don't have a lot of RAM, you will have issues with running two operating systems in the first place. So my computer has 16 gigs of RAM, an i7-4770K processor, and what's nice about the Intel series is you can split up as many cores of your CPU for your secondary operating system as you want. So your Windows operating system will still have 4 cores, and your Ubuntu server will have 4 cores, or you can have 7 cores for Windows, 1 core for Ubuntu. And Oracle Box, or VirtualBox, sorry, allows you to modify how much CPU usage you also want to allow your virtual machine. So if you don't have a lot of power in your main computer, or in terms of hardware in your computer, and you want to limit how much your Linux will take from your Windows, you can configure all of that. So we're going to start by downloading right here, and the links will be in the video description. So I already have all of this downloaded, but this video assumes that you have some knowledge of understanding how to download stuff, how to install stuff, how to download ISOs. So you'll install it by just clicking it. Follow the guide. There's nothing very difficult in the installation. It will tell you that it might mess up your network interfaces because it actually has to create a virtual network device for your second operating system, but that should be all self-explanatory. So okay, so here it is. We have the VirtualBox Manager open, and you should be seeing nothing on the screen because you won't have two virtual machines or any number of virtual machines already set up. So what you're gonna want to do is click New. We're gonna call this Ubuntu Server Demo or something like that. We're gonna set it to Linux, Ubuntu 64-bit. Now you're gonna allocate how much RAM you want for this virtual machine. So for my main virtual machine, as you can see back here, I allocate 6 gigs of RAM and 4 processor cores. Because this is a demo, I'm just gonna do some small numbers. And this is the next part. This is a very important step. You're gonna want to create a virtual hard drive, because your virtual machine actually has to have its own hard drive, and you probably don't want to give it a full physical drive in your computer. So you essentially create a file somewhere on your hard drive that is used as a complete virtual hard drive. So you'll click create new. Now this is these next few steps are very important. You'll want to select VirtualBox disk image. This doesn't really have much of a difference, except it's different formats for different software suites. And I'm using Oracle VirtualBox Manager, but there's a bunch of other VM programs. Now, dynamically allocated versus fixed size. Dynamically allocated means it starts, the virtual hard drive file itself originally is very, very small, like as small. Actually, it starts out, I think, like 1 megabyte or something like that, and then as soon as you start putting stuff on it, it grows bigger and bigger on your computer, so that eventually it'll reach its max size on your computer, but it won't start off by taking up all of that space that you want to allocate to it. But dynamically allocated files have more issues with with fragmentation, and you'll need to defragment them more often. But I still chose dynamically allocated originally for my virtual machine, so we're going to stick to that. And we're going to make this 8 gigs very small. My actual one is 500 gigabytes. And then we will put this somewhere. Just make sure you know where all of your stuff is set up, because you wanna make sure that you don't lose this. And I've had issues with the hard drives being corrupted as well, so you want to make sure you back these up very often. Okay, and I'm gonna make a new folder here. And we'll just put it right there, create. Now it's going to create that drive, and it just created the virtual machine. Now in your settings, I think you can also, oh wait, before we get to that, in your file preferences, you can configure your default machine folder. I think actually this one went to the wrong place, but I think after you set this up, it doesn't really matter as long as you know where all of your stuff is, and it will create where did it put it? It will create a bunch of other preference files that you need for the program to know information about your virtual machine. So these two files, VBox and VBoxPrev. Now my hard drive is in a different place, but you should probably keep everything consolidated. So now that we're ready, we're gonna click Start. So for the first time, it's gonna ask you if you want to install an operating system, you need a virtual disk to plug into your computer. So now we're going to download Ubuntu Server, and this is a 64-bit installation of Ubuntu Server. Now we're going to download that. Meanwhile, we can click cancel and ACPI shutdown. Yep, system halted. Oh. Well, we're going to just close, power off the machine, and we can configure everything in here. When we click System, again, this is the amount of memory, RAM, that our virtual machine gets. This is the number of processors that our virtual machine gets. I'll only set it to 1, but I can give up to 4, because my other virtual machine uses 4, I think. And execution cap, how much % of that those processors do you want running or active by used up by the virtual machine. Enable this. This is a advanced feature for, if it depends on whether your motherboard supports it or not. Acceleration hardware virtualization. This helps your processor allocate itself between the two operating systems, your Windows and your secondary. So display, we don't really need to change this. We don't need acceleration, because Ubuntu Server, compared to Ubuntu, it does not have a graphical interface. It's all command line, because you don't want to need a video card dedicated for that. So you might just want the text console, because it's a lot easier actually once you get used to it. So storage, that's the hard drive we have, and this is the CD that we just downloaded. Audio, network is the actual one that you will want to make sure is right, and you'll want to set it to bridged adapter for most uses, and you can Google this online, but this is the one that allows your virtual machine to have its own IP on the network, it'll be like another computer on your network. So you'll set this to your main Ethernet on your computer, on your Windows machine, your physical Ethernet connector. This is the actual connector, or the interface that your virtual machine will see. And promiscuous mode. Promiscuous mode, promiscuous mode, I always set this to allow all. I think it has something to do with port forwarding, but I'm not sure, and I don't think it actually has much of a difference. MAC address, that's the MAC address of the internal adapter, and you can change this or reset it if you want. And that's for networking stuff in case you need to change the MAC address of the internal virtual adapter. Serial ports, USB, you probably don't need to change any of this. Shared folders, I've never actually gotten it to work, but could be a useful feature. Okay, I think we're ready now that we downloaded. Now we're going to click Start again. Hopefully, okay, well, it's not asking me for the CD. So what we're going to do is going to click Devices, CD, Host Drive D. And then we're going to click Choose a Virtual CD DVD Drive. And now we're going to go to Downloads. In our downloads, we have the ISO file for the server. And we're going to click Reset. It's going to restart the virtual machine. And as you can see, it booted directly to that ISO file. Now you're just gonna, this is kind of the step that you would run if you're physically installing this operating system on a physical computer without a virtual machine. Same exact thing. So you're gonna set English or whatever your language is. Install Ubuntu server. English, United States, blah blah blah. You can go through all of these steps. The beginning steps are very simple, and a lot of it is waiting. So now we wait for stuff to start installing. So we'll be back shortly. While we're waiting, we have a guest speaker on the line. Mr. Jeffrey, would you like to say anything about this?
Oh, what?
Tutorial? Oh, well, that looks like it's a no. But oh man, it's installing the network configuration. Looks like network configuration succeeded. Okay, so it's connecting to our network. So that means it actually detected the Ethernet already. And as you can see down here, it's blinking. That means there's an incoming and outgoing connection from inside the internal NIC. We're gonna call this Ubuntu test, but I'm gonna be deleting all of this anyways later. But for example, for my main thing, for my main Ubuntu installation, I called it VadWeb, which is the name of the website, but it can be anything. It's just for you, pretty much, for the network admin, assuming you manage that. And we're gonna call this my name, username, password. You need a password on Linux because your default installation is I think sudo access. So sudo in Linux in Ubuntu land means super user do. So that means when you run a command with sudo privileges, that means it has the power to do anything in Ubuntu. So we're not going to encrypt our home directory. That literally means that on Windows, if you try delete system32, it's not going to let you delete system32. But on Linux or on Ubuntu, if you super user delete all of the Linux files or the kernel file or anything, any system files, it will let you do that. So you have to be careful, more careful with what you do, because it's actually possible to accidentally mess up a command that will destroy everything, which is why frequent backups are useful. I've actually had it accidentally happen to me when I was changing the permissions of a file. I accidentally, what did I do? I left out something, and it ended up changing the permission of the entire hard drive, or the virtual hard drive. Now, another cool thing is changes that happen inside of the virtual hard drive can't get out to your real hard drive, or it can't, like, any damage that can happen will happen inside of the virtual hard drive, not on your actual hard drive. And if we actually go to the place where we put the hard drive, you can see it's still very small because it hasn't. I don't think it has copied anything yet. But this is the file. That's the hard drive. That's literally the hard drive for this system. And everything that happens, any damage that happens, can only happen within that file, not outside. So we're going to use guided and set up LVM. We're going to click. That's the default, the small hard drive that we decided to create. Right, changes and configure LVM. Yes, that's going to partition the virtual hard drive. Yes. Yes, so we're configuring this hard drive to be used for this. Now it's copying data to disk, and you can see the file size increase instantly as the ISO is copying stuff onto here. Now, for actually running the server, because we want it running in the background, we're going to run everything through SSH. And if you've never used Linux or Ubuntu server before, I'm going to talk a little bit about that. But essentially, everything within Ubuntu server is like running your command prompt. There's nothing more. There's no clicking. It's all text. And because it is such, you can actually remotely, quote, command prompt, quote, into it. So I'll get to what that means, but you don't even have to be at home to, or on the same network to control the server. You just need SSH. Well, not command. Yeah, you need SSH access to the machine to have access to the console. So it's installing right now, and I don't know what it's doing, but it's doing something. Let me explain what that means. Actually, no, we're gonna keep going with this. So we'll be right back as soon as it's done installing. Okay, it's asking me for proxy information. I'm not running a proxy, so we click continue. Now I think it's gonna run some configuration for the default updater tool. So now it's asking us if we want to install updates, and we're going to install security updates automatically. Landscape is a system for remotely managing updates if you are a company or a business and pay for a service to whoever makes Ubuntu, those people. And it's a system for managing all the updates remotely through their own web GUI system. But we're just going to install security updates automatically. Okay, so this is an important part of the setup, and I don't know, what I like to do is only installing the very important stuff here and then adding on stuff later, especially when I realize what I need to do. And having extra stuff will because it's probably going to be running in the background. You might actually mess more stuff up because you won't be expecting to have it installed and already set up, but it will be. So we're gonna install OpenSSH server, and make sure to press space to select, not enter, because enter will continue, not select. So OpenSSH server, that's what we need to remotely terminal or console into the server. DNS server, that's for network managing stuff. I actually don't know much about DNS, so I can't really help with that. LAMP server, that's what you can use for a web server. I actually use LightTPD, but LAMP stands for Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP, and it's a complete configuration of all of those. The mail server is what you use to send and receive mail. Unfortunately, Comcast in the US blocks outgoing mail, so you'll have some difficulties with that. PostgreSQL is another database, and that's an alternative for MySQL. Print server, if you want to set up a printer or something like that. Samba file server, that's for file sharing on your network, I think, yeah. Tomcat Java server is another web server if you want to program the backend in Java, not PHP. Virtual machine host, if you want to run a virtual machine inside of the virtual machine, which you probably don't. Manual package selection, that's if you want to install more stuff right now, and we only want the OpenSSH server for now, because everything else we'll be doing later. So now I want to talk a little bit about port forwarding. If you have never dealt with port forwarding before, essentially what it means is if you have a router between your external internet connection, so your modem, and your computer network, you need some way for people outside of your house to be able to access your computer. But by default, routers block all of the ports to your computer because, first of all, you can only have X number of ports from port 1 to port like 65,000 something, and your router needs to know which port should go to which computer on your network. That's one thing. And the second thing is for security. You want to block all ports unless you know you want a specific one open. So what a port does is allows a connection between your outside network and your inside network, or what port forwarding does, I mean, it allows a connection between your outside network and computers within your network. So for example, port 80 is 80 is what you use default for network HTTP connections. So for example, when someone outside of your house types in your external IP address, they're going to send a request to, first it's going to hit your router on port 80. Your router is then going to figure out, oh, port 80 is forwarded for computer on the internal network under IP address 192.168.1.100 or something like that. And your router is going to take that request from the outside world and forward it to that specific computer on your inside world. Or, sorry, your inside, yes, is that, yes. So, essentially, it forwards a request from the outside network into your inside network. So, for example, if you want SSH, the remote terminal connection system, and actually it's for more than that, but we're going to be using it for the remote console. It uses default port 22. Now, if you don't forward the port 22 to the IP address of your virtual machine, then that means you cannot access the virtual machine from the outside world. But you still can access the virtual machine from the inside world by connecting directly to the IP of the inside world virtual machine. So your internal virtual machine's IP, so let's say 192.168.1.102 is your virtual machine's Ubuntu's installation internal IP address. You can still connect to that without having ports forwarded, but you won't be able to connect to it from the outside world. We're going to click yes for this. So I think I'm going to actually do a network setup guide as a separate video because that is actually a lot of stuff if I want to do it properly. Okay, so it's saying installation's complete. Please make sure to remove your installation media. We don't have a physical installation media, but if we click devices, CDs, it's already unchecked, so it automatically does that for us. It ejects the disk. We press continue, and it's about to finish. It's going to restart the system automatically. We can see that the hard drive is already at 1.7 gigs. That's just how much the installation needs to run on its own. There we go. We are booting into the operating system right now. And pretty much this is it. I can hear my hard drive crunching as it boots up. There we go. Everything is starting up. And the server's up. Congratulations. Now you type
Yay!
Yay! You type in your username, which I said is Vadim, and you type in your password. Bingo! We have Interesting. Failed to start user service, huh? That's interesting. Well, this is what your default login looks like, and for the first time it says Ubuntu comes with absolutely no warranty. So, up top you can see system usage. That is not of your actual hard drive, or sorry, not of your total CPU. That's only of the CPU that the virtual machine sees. So that means if your virtual machine only has one core allocated to it, that's 1% usage of one core. IP address for ETH0, or ETH0, that's the IP address of your virtual machine's network. So yeah, so that's what your router sees as the IP address of the virtual machine. Now here are a few basic commands. ls, that displays what is inside your folder. Right now in our folder, wherever we are, we have nothing in it. cd selects a folder or enters a folder. If we type cd/, that goes to the very root of the hard drive. And if we press ls now, we can see this is what's on the very, very surface of the hard drive, all the folders on the surface of the hard drive. To go back to where we are, which is our user home directory, we can either go cd/home or home, ls, cd vadim, ls. So now we're back where we were, or we could have just done cd, which returns you to the home directory, or we could have done cd/home/vadim. Now, what's really nice is if you press tab at any point, it auto-completes. So that's very nice. Now, some other important commands. If we put sudo in front of anything, that will run that command with super user access, and it'll require the password again. Of course, you Google for more stuff as you need more commands, or if you have issues with something and you need to figure it out. To update, you see up top it says 22 packages can be updated, 18 updates are security updates. We type sudo apt-get update first. Now this is going to download and refresh all the package information. And then the second command we would do, I will show in just a second as soon as this is done. It might be a little bit slow. What I've found is for some reason the updating is very slow, especially for at the beginning part, if you have IPv6 enabled on your network, which is strange, but anyways, their servers I think are misconfigured for IPv6. There we go, and now it's done with the first step of the update. Then we do sudo apt-get dist-upgrade -f-fix broken. That's to do a complete update of everything that's possible, and it'll say the following new packages will be installed, the following will be upgraded. So we press Y, and now it's going to update. Oh, so we're actually going to show you how to SSH into it first. So, right. So after you have all this running, you see how my main VadWeb virtual machine doesn't actually have to be open. Like the program isn't open, but the server is still running. So to do that, what I'm going to need to do, we can close this for now. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a little bit of a Windows file script to run that. So let's see, where's my script right now? I will provide this in the video description. This is what you need, and this will start this virtual machine in headless mode, meaning it won't actually have a screen of Oracle box or Oracle VirtualBox screen attached to it. It'll only run in the background. So I will provide this in the video description, and you'll want to replace VadWeb Ubuntu with the name that you selected for this virtual machine. I will show you how this works actually. What did we call it? Ubuntu server demo, right? Virtual machine. So we're going to save this. We're going to shut down this current one, because if you actually close this window, it'll kill it because it's not running in the background headless mode. So sudo shutdown dash, oh no, we don't need to restart now. And it's going to say going down for maintenance, and it's going to shut down. Oh, looks like I'm not sure what it's doing. If it freezes like that and goes into root mode, you can force kill it by clicking ACPI shutdown. If that still doesn't work, you can click close and power off. So if we run this now, there we go. This is the path to the VirtualBox installation. It's going to start this in headless mode, waiting for to power on. Has successfully started. So if I open VirtualBox Manager, we can see that this guy is running. It's running, and this preview will actually show you what's going on in the background. If you close it, you see how I don't have it open, but it's actually still running. And now to connect to it, you're going to need to install a program called Putty. You don't need to install it, you just download Putty. And I will also provide a link for that in the video description. You will type in the IP address of your new virtual machine, which I cannot remember. I will be right back. Okay, it is .1.46, and it's going to be default port because we did not change that. SSH, this is the internal host name, remember? Internal IP address, and we're going to click open. Oh, security alert, yes, we're going to click yes. There we go. Now we have a remote connection to the virtual machine, and you can actually connect to this virtual machine from anywhere if you have the ports forwarded, or even from any other computer at your house without having your ports forwarded, just by knowing the IP of the virtual machine. And I'm going to be talking about how to configure DHCP server to make sure your IP of the virtual machine does not change, stuff like that, in the network setup tutorial that's going to be coming next. So again, we log in with Vadim, which is whatever our username was and the password, and here we go. We have the same exact thing. So, same exact thing. Now, all the commands work the same way. This is exactly the same thing. And you can have multiple instances of consoles working. And if we close this, it's still running in the background, and we can reconnect, etc. So, please let me know if you're interested in this kind of stuff. I like doing tutorials, but I don't really know if you guys are into what I'm doing here, so it would be very nice to know if you prefer tutorials for network stuff, or you would like programming tutorials, or if you want me just to stick to video games. Or so for that, please click the video right now, or go into the video description and click the link for a Google survey of what you want me to work on the most and what kind of videos you're most interested in. Because I like doing this stuff, but I'm not sure if maybe this is a little bit too advanced for you, or maybe it's too simple, or please let me know. So that would be very much appreciated, and please subscribe if you want to see more content from me. I'm going to try to make more videos now because, well, actually starting from January, I hope I can start making a lot more stuff. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.